Hey everybody. I've never done this before because most of us sticky head people don't like looking sick. But one of the problems with only showing up when we're doing okay or when we can fake it is that people tell us things like, but you don't look sick. And sometimes it's hard to believe when we do get around to saying how things are going. So here I am, and letting everybody see what a bad day looks like, sort of. The reason I'm on here is because I wanted to ask you to pray, and it didn't seem to make much sense to ask you to pray about something that was a big deal without explaining why it's a big deal. So, in a few weeks, couple weeks, we are planning on going to Florida. Traveling isn't fun anymore. For this new treatment that may make a big difference. And the reason I'm on here talking to you about it is because one of the first thoughts is probably, but I thought the brain surgery made a big difference, and it did. Actually, things are so much better than they used to be. They may not look like it at the moment, but they really, really are. But they didn't fix everything. In fact, I talked to a guy who does the kind of brain surgery that I had, and he told me, he said, I don't like doing those because I like fixing things, like taking out tumors, making the problem go away. He said, and Chiari surgeries doesn't fix it. It just, helps, I guess, makes it a little better, that kind of thing. So it's been 2 years, and it's been a huge improvement. It's helped so many things, but it hasn't helped everything. And I've still got chronic pain because of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And so I wanted you to know about it because I know I haven't explained very much, because it's very hard to explain without taking a really, 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 really long time. But since I do need you to pray, I'm kind of one of those people who wants to know why or what's really going on, and maybe you too. So that's what this is for. So here's the deal. Because I was probably born with the Chiari, which means that my skull either grew too far in, or it kind of crunched everything. Sorry, brain fog, it comes with the migraines. My brain's too big for my skull comes down too far, like this, and so my brain was squeezing down into my spinal canal, and of course causing all kinds of problems that you probably know about. So they took that away and cut part of that out, cut part of my skull out, cut part of the brain out, actually, and opened all that up, which was great because a lot of my chronic conditions that doctors could never figure out what to do about, they went away because it wasn't really about whatever the symptom was resulting in. It was but one of the things that did probably was cause this Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And so I didn't grow right, I guess you could say. So I have scoliosis. It's mild, it's not terrible, but because of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which means that the ligaments are a problem. So, we kind of think of ligaments just in joints, but ligaments are what hold everything together, like everything. And if you have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, it means that your ligaments don't produce enough of the protein collagen. And so all your fascia and all your ligaments and everything, they just aren't as strong as they should be. And the way I kind of think of it is like, a rubber band. If you pull it and it comes back limp, that's what your ligaments are supposed to be. But if you play with that rubber band for like days and days and days, after a while it's just kind of like, and it might hold something together, but not as well. And that's kind of what it's like with EDS. And so the longer you live, of course, the more it gets. And they say, once you hit 40, you can plan on being in chronic pain for the rest of your life. They've been right so far. So what happens is you're just kind of floppy, and it doesn't seem like that would be a big deal. And some people have EDS their whole lives and don't have any trouble with it. If you have EDS and Chiari, it tends to compound things. So basically, to try and explain, my hips are crooked and rotated. And so then my spine goes kind of like this, and then it comes up into my head. So, but the problem is with EDS, things aren't stable. So at any given moment, these bones might be protruding, or these bones might be crooked, or these might, things shift around. They're not supposed to do that. So particularly with my neck, upper cervical, my C1 and C2 atlas and axis, they're supposed to be very flexible, and basically you've got this big bowling ball hinged on this set of joints. They're holding everything, and they're also, this is your spinal canal that is sending messages to your entire body and controlling things. So what often happens is if I sit on a chair, like a piano bench, I love playing the piano, or at least I used to, and if I sit on a piano bench and it's a hard chair, within 2 to 5 minutes, my hips are going to get mad, and then they're going to do whatever they do, and then it's going to run up my spine because it gets mad because it's not in the right place, and now it's trying to adjust, and then it gets into my neck, and I can feel it on one side or the other, whichever it picks for that day, and a migraine's coming. If I don't deal with it right away, and sometimes even if I try to deal with it right away, it's going to run up, particularly here, and then next thing you know, the whole side of my face is in pain, and the nausea and sensitivity, all that not good stuff. And it's very odd because I've been to neurologists, I've been to pain doctors, and whatever, but they talk about things like what kind of a migraine is it, and do you have an aura, and all these things, and mine doesn't fit the profile, and every medicine they've given me so far has caused terrible problems as opposed to being really helpful, which is not really helpful. And you can see why people with chronic illness, we get a little disillusioned about the idea of trying something new after a while. Oh, try this, it helps so much. Oh, try this, it's a good thing. And you're like, I've got pages and pages and pages of things I've tried, and a lot of them caused a lot of problems. And after a while, you're kind of like, I don't want to try anything else. It's like, here's a set of paper wings I made. Try jumping out the cliff, see if you can fly. Not really, but brain fog, whatever. What was that? This is another reason not to do videos. So it's fascinating because, like, say I can do something, I could go for a walk in the wrong shoes, or I could just go for a walk, or I could just be sitting here. There's no telling. It's not like it's a trigger thing that I can avoid. But say I do something, and now I've got this migraine on the right side. Well, if something got adjusted, or moved, or slipped up here, or I did some kind of weirdness, trying to exercise to get it to readjust itself, it can actually switch over to the other side. And now I've got muscle strength in the side that's usually floppy, and it switches over, and now this one's fine, and now this one feels like my arm's kind of a little falling off, and I don't have the strength in my hand, and I've got the migraine on the other side, and I can literally, like, there's a line down my body that separates the two sides, and I can even feel nauseated on one side of my neck, which is totally weird. So, all that said, as much as we try to fake it and it's not so much faking it, it's just more like trying not to make it what our lives are all about and who we are. And I mean, really, who wants to be around somebody who's whining all the time and like, and just, making their whole life about how they feel. And so we usually don't show up when we feel like this. And not only that, but if it's going to get exacerbated, I don't know, it's just one of those things. You don't want to be like this. And so, I mean, who else wants to be around you when you're like this? And so it's better to just sort of stay home and play in a dark room and, I don't know, try and distract yourself, which doesn't really work very well. So, what does all that mean? See, there's good reasons why we don't make videos on days like this. But I needed you to know so that you would understand what I'm asking you to pray for. So there's this, which is the pain, and basically I spend my days trying to avoid it. And some days are good days, and some days are not. And some days this happens, and it lasts for days and days. And I take every pill I can think of, and it doesn't really help. So what are we supposed to do? Well, you just live with it, or try to live with it. It's not like you have much choice in the matter. You sleep with ice packs and I don't know. So stupid. All right, why am I here? What are we talking about? Oh yes, I'm asking you to pray because of this treatment in Florida. I'll try to post a video of the other guy explaining it so you don't have to listen to me try to explain it. But it's the only thing I've ever heard of. These people are highly specialized, which is why we have to go so far, that they do this particularly for people who have Chiari and EDS, which a lot of doctors don't even know what those are. So having somebody actually know what they are and actually have a track record of helping people with that, that's huge. I haven't heard of anything aside from the brain surgery that has a legitimate record of making people with Chiari and EDS feel better, except for marijuana, so this is a big deal. I am nervous about trying it. It's called prolotherapy. That would be probably up in my neck and maybe down in my hip as well, which tries to strengthen your ligaments. And I've actually had prolotherapy done on my knee before. It's like 30 to 40 shots in there, and I had this horrible systemic response. So it's not like I'm like, woo, let's try this new treatment because that'll be fun. But that was pre-brain surgery, and post-brain surgery, my body's just totally different. So it's like starting at ground zero, but I'm not excited about it. So I need you to pray for me.